Chapter 15. Enoch asks a question. In back of the Hopkins farm, there was a little stream, hardly more than a pond fed by, runs from the hills. Here the cattle came to drink. Here, too, Enoch kept a homemade boat moored to a birch tree. The quiet water was overhung with trees, one huge maple and some birches and dogwoods. With the first frost, the trees had turned. But before the winds came to strip them of their leaves, the weather had grown warm again. The red and copper of the leaves were mirrored in the water. Their beauty was not a thing that could be described in any language. Callie stood on the bank with Enoch, speechless with wonder. "Pretty, isn't it?" Enoch said, with the understatement common to New Englanders. "Just wait till the moon comes up. It'll take your breath away. Come on out in my boat. We'll go upstream to meet the moonrise." "Your father can spare us from the corn shucking?" Callie asked, as Enoch unlooped the rope and loosed the boat from its mooring. "Sure," Enoch laughed. "Pa never had so many hands helping on the farm in his life as he's had this summer. Even since Mr. Pendleton said Cinque and the rest of you could come farming if you wanted to, Pa's fair spoiled. Don't know how he's going to manage when you folks leave." After Cinque had come back from New York in April, there'd been nothing for the prisoners to do but sit and wait for the Supreme Court to meet in October. When spring came in earnest and the corn started stirring in the ground, Cinque had wandered back and forth restlessly in the Pendleton yard. He had ceased to take an interest in the lessons, ceased to eat, had grown silent and moody. "There's nothing wrong with Cinque that getting his fingers in the dirt won't cure," Mr. Pendleton had said. "He's a farmer. Come planting time, a farmer just naturally wants to plant." Next day, the jailer had driven Cinque and a wagon load of his other prisoners out to the Hopkins farm. He had announced to Mr. Hopkins that there was some hired help if there was any work to do. After that day, the time of waiting for the court ruling had gone by like a breeze in the trees. The captives had weeded and pulled stumps. They had cleared stones for a new field and piled the stones into long walls on the upland meadows. They had helped cut the hay and gather the corn. They had used all their skill as farmers on this alien land. Now the harvest was over, all but the corn shucking. October was half gone, and the justices of the Supreme Court were meeting in Washington. Indian summer was putting an end to the time of waiting. Darkness came abruptly after sunset, and the full harvest moon came up over the trees like a lantern. The two boys had been rowing in silence, each occupied with his own thoughts. Suddenly, Enoch rested his oars. "Do you realize," he asked, "that you've been in America more than a year?" 14 moons, Callie said. "I just counted. I was thinking, where will I see the next moon?" "Why not here?" Enoch urged. He talked over with his father this idea of getting Callie to stay. "You forget, Enoch, the future is not of my choosing." Enoch's lips tightened. He had to admit that the ruling of the Supreme Court, when their case came up, was by no means certain to go in favor of the Amistad captives. Graham Ellis had gone down to Washington to talk with Mr. Adams. The tutor had come back to Yale plainly discouraged. He had hidden his anxiety from the prisoners, but at the college he had spoken of the many forces working against a favorable decision. There was Spain, for one thing. The Spanish ambassador insisted that the Africans were a lot of rebellious slaves and mutineers who should be turned over without more delay. The senores who had paid good money for them. The Secretary of State and the Attorney General wanted to please the ambassador from Spain. They said it was the duty of the United States to return the slaves to their owners. There was also another reason in the back of some minds. Many men in the government from the southern states were slaveholders themselves. They said that if Cinque and his companions gained their freedom by violent action, other rebellious slaves might follow their example. It was better to send the captives back to Cuba, to let the Cubans decide whether they were slaves or free men. It was not the business, these slaveholders said, of Americans to look for fraud to say who were Latinos, who Pozals.